Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bruce Frisco. It is Wednesday, the 28th day of January. This is CTV News. Tonight, Ontario links with the Port of St. John to ship its exports. The hunt for hydrants. Who's responsible for digging them out after a storm? And facing dementia together. Meaningful ways to help loved ones navigate the unknown.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News. Here is Bruce Frisco.
Good evening. Many more products from Ontario are going to be shipped through the Port of St. John. At a meeting of Canada's provincial and territorial leaders today, Premier Susan Holt and Doug Ford committed to moving even more Ontario containers through that maritime facility. CTV's Avery McCrae has details.
The St. John Harbour is New Brunswick's gateway to the world, and now the country's most populated province can say the same.
Over the past year, the amount of Ontario export products moving through Port St. John, including major categories like vehicles, metals, forestry, agricultural products, have increased, as Premier Holt said, by 153%.
The increase in exports was highlighted by the provincial leaders and port president in Ottawa today. The bulk of the Ontario goods that are moved through the port are bound for markets outside of the U.S., including Europe, Asia, and the Caribbean. Ontario made up for 31% of the port's total exports in 2025. In meeting with Ontario industry today, the port's CEO has high hopes for that number to climb.
Our whole goal is so that people understand our gateway, understand the services that we provide at the Port of St. John, and perhaps we can open up a new market for industry and for specific companies.
A big driver behind the expansion of Ontario goods has been made possible through the removal of many interprovincial trade barriers brought under the microscope amid a trade war with the U.S.
When provinces work together, Canada competes and wins.
The increase in container traffic from Ontario comes on the heels of a $247 million modernization project, which is benefiting far more than just the port city. Avery McCrae, CTV News, St. John.
And the premiers and the territorial leaders have gathered in Ottawa to huddle with the Prime Minister ahead of renewed CUSMA talks with Washington.
In any negotiation, there's on both sides, there's some people that are kind of out front with more bluster. We're certainly seeing that, particularly out of the United States right now. But I'm hopeful that below that, there are real and significant discussions happening and taking place. And I'm looking forward to kind of hearing from the Prime Minister on the status of those.
Tonight, the Premier sat down with the PM for a working dinner, and the main scheduled meeting will take place all day tomorrow.
Get the Maritimes top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
A Halifax senior is facing child porn charges in an unusual case. Police say they were tipped off in September that someone in Halifax was using AI software to create and distribute child porn images. Investigators searched a home yesterday, seizing devices and arresting a 69-year-old man. Michael Burke LeBlanc appeared in court today. The investigation is said to be ongoing. A man who confessed to a woman's murder in Dartmouth nearly 15 years ago was in court today, trying to get that conviction thrown out. Christian Kleik argues his lawyer was ineffective in defending him. Kleik fatally shot Angela Hall in a drug deal gone wrong in 2011. At the time, Kleik had consumed Valium and benzos. He confessed and was found guilty of second-degree murder by a judge, despite pleading not guilty and not having a trial. He received a life sentence with no chance of parole for 12 years and abandoned an early appeal before filing again in 2022. Kleik's defense argued he had a psychotic episode at the time of the confession and didn't have an operating mind. Kleik argues his defense was ineffective and his charter rights were breached by the Crown's failure to disclose an audio recording of one of his police statements. That appeal will continue tomorrow. The trial of a Moncton man accused of killing two seniors continued today with testimony from a Mountie who worked extensively on the investigation. CTV's Derek Haggett continues his coverage.
A member of the RCMP's major crime unit who was part of the investigation of the murders of Bernard and Rosemary Saunier testified for the bulk of the day. The couple's bodies were discovered in their Dieppe home on September 7, 2019. Both were shot in the head. Jansen Baker has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder. Corporal Andrew Painter described to the court what one inmate told him about the murders. That inmate previously testified that Baker confessed to him that he was responsible for the Saulniers' deaths. The witness and Baker interacted while both were incarcerated. The witness's identity cannot be revealed due to a publication ban. The defense asked Painter what the witness wanted in exchange for providing information and how much his sentence could possibly be reduced. Painter testified the witness's sentence was reduced in exchange for the information, but he wasn't sure by how much. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
A push to cut the ballooning costs associated with the Halifax bike network did not get a lot of traction today. Originally estimated to cost $25 million, the bike lanes are now pegged at $85 million. Looking for savings, staff proposed cuts to 3 plans, which would have shaved $5 million off the cost. Instead, though, council approved 2 of the 3, trimming about $1.7 million.
Councillor Austin was concerned about the Dartmouth North approach, and which would have been the project would have saved us the most amount of money.
I was really happy that council didn't decide to proceed with the Victoria Highfield cut, because that was taking the bike lanes away from the biggest population density, away from the transit center, and putting it off on side streets.
I think we do need to weigh the number of users in each group against the dollars, and if we were to do that simple math, we would see that the dollars per user show that the bike lanes are very expensive.
Despite the changes, work on the bike lane projects is still scheduled to be complete by 2029. And the HRM mayor also weighing in today on the future of the 99-year-old Halifax Forum. In a late afternoon news release, Andy Fillmore noted the replacement cost for the arena has ballooned from $38 million a decade ago to $126 million today, an increase of about 230%. Fillmore wants to pause redevelopment and look for less pricey options for new ice surfaces for the peninsula. A 2 or 3 pad facility is recommended to help fulfill the growing demand. The debate over power rates in Nova Scotia ramped up today, with the opposition New Democrats calling for a full review of the province's power utility. NDP says it can't support an 8% rate hike for Nova Scotia Power, noting that if approved, customers would be paying $600 a year more than they were when Tim Houston became premier. Opposition leader Claudia Gender says recent events have demonstrated why things need to change.
Nova Scotia Power is asking us to pay more while they increase their profits. Meanwhile, household income is stagnant, our data has been breached, trust in the utility is at an all-time low, and in the midst of this deep freeze, power remains incredibly unreliable.
Gender says a review of the company should include an examination of potential pros and cons of making Nova Scotia Power publicly owned again. It was sold by the provincial government back in 1992. City of St. John has implemented its overnight parking ban tonight as crews there work to remove the snow. In Halifax, the ban was lifted today, but not before a sizable number of vehicles were ticketed or towed. CTV's Hafsa Arif has more.
This round of enforcement stretched longer than usual, driven by 2 storms, separated only by a short break, forcing crews to clear, reset, and then do it all again.
This was a longer stretch to have the parking ban enforced in both zones that we have set up for the ban. Basically, it's put in place when crews require time to move the snow.
On Monday, the height of enforcement, Halifax issued 856 parking tickets and towed 66 vehicles. By the next day, those numbers dropped to 556 tickets and 26 tows as conditions slowly improved. Today, enforcement continued to trend down, 352 tickets and 24 tows just before the ban was officially lifted. Now, even though the city has removed the parking ban, drivers aren't completely in the clear.
There is a section in the Motor Vehicle Act provincially that you can be ticketed or towed at any time if your car is impeding with snow clearing efforts.
Hafsa Arif, CTV News, Halifax.
And although most streets and sidewalks in Halifax are now passable, the same cannot necessarily be said for fire hydrants. Digging those out is actually the responsibility of Halifax Water, but the utility often gets help from firefighters themselves because there are more calls during snowy weather.
Remember the time of year fires do occur, and we do need access to that very vital water supply.
But the tricky piece is that sometimes we're clearing hydrants, but then the plow's going by to clean the street, and sometimes they can be snowed in again.
In case you're wondering, there are about 8,800 hydrants all over HRM. A gala kickoff in Halifax tonight to a busy and important annual event. The opening night celebration for African Heritage Month hosted at the Central Library this evening. This is the 42nd year for the event. Theme this time around, strength and unity, moving forward with purpose, prosperity, power, and progress.
Today, we gather rooted in strength of our ancestors, grounded in community, and guided by purpose. We honor those who came before us, those who endured, those who resisted.
This year's African Heritage Month will feature more than 40 events, including musical performances, workshops, and lecture-based conversations for all ages. Still to come tonight, Kaylin's full forecast, and we'll tell you why Gen Z doesn't drink nearly as much as their predecessors did. Coming up next, though, changing the conversation.
My uncle has been in the industry for over 40 years now.
It's a maritime connection to the runaway hit, Heated Rivalry. We'll tell you all about it when we come back.
This is such a bad idea.
Mornings with Aaron and Peter.
Weekdays at 7, you can win $1,000 with the $1,000 minute.
10 questions in 60 seconds to win, and you can get the answer to question number 10 on our podcast.
Don't have to tell you, the series Heated Rivalry has been a viral hit and perhaps a game changer for inclusivity in the sport of hockey. As CTV's Ryan McDonald shows us tonight, a man who was a hockey star here in the Maritimes for years has played a key role in making that show happen.
Culligan joining late. Fergus looking for point 5, and he does. Cam Fergus, a bullet.
Cam Fergus played 2 seasons for the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles about 2 decades ago. His final year on the island, he scored 53 goals, still a team record.
Turns, fires it sharp, angle, the rebound, they score!
A few years later, he helped St. Mary's University win their first men's national championship and graduated with a degree in finance and management. Now, the 39-year-old is the stunt coordinator on Heated Rivalry.
My uncle has been in the industry for over 40 years now. So stunts, I mean, it is kind of a crazy career choice, but it was always kind of part of our family.
Fergus has worked on other big hockey shows too, like Shoresy and Letterkenny, but says the response Heated Rivalry has received from the LGBTQ2S+ community and the hockey world has been special. While a couple of minor pro players, active and retired, have come out, the NHL still hasn't had its first openly gay player. Fergus says, well, his job is simply to make good television. The stories of Ilya Rozanov and Shane Hollander might help change that.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, people should be able to be who they are and feel comfortable where they are, no matter what they're doing. And hopefully that, you know, this conversation continues and that does happen.
An East Coast connection to a show that has people talking. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Sydney.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll take a quick little break here, but when we return, it's your complete maritime weather forecast. Calm and cold out there. Kaylin will tell us what to expect when we come back. It is Wednesday night, 28th day of January, and it was nice to see the sun today, and the sun is actually kind of warm when you're out of the wind.
Yeah, I find that winter sunshine can make all the difference, and you're right, Bruce, if you could find a nice spot where you're sheltered out of the wind a little bit, the sun was shining on you, you could actually tolerate the fact that the temperatures were pretty cold.
Sure.
Yeah, now it is a very cold night tonight across the Maritime region, a lot of low temperatures tonight, well down into the minus teens. No big weather systems on our doorstep, though there are a few areas to watch for some flurries over the next 24 hours. One of those areas as we make our way through tonight is once again in the southwest of Nova Scotia. Continuing chance of flurries there as that cold northwest wind blows over the waters of the Bay of Fundy. There will also be a continued chance of flurries in parts of Cape Breton. And then another area that could get some flurries throughout the day on Thursday, northern areas of New Brunswick. Cloud cover increasing there morning into the afternoon, followed up by some flurries that in some cases could accumulate to as much as a few centimeters. Now winds in the forecast for tonight and for tomorrow remain out of the northwest, and tomorrow's wind gusts will be about the same range they were today, so in a lot of cases between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour. Taking a look at low temperatures in the forecast for tonight, many parts of the Maritimes looking at lows falling into the range of around minus 12 to minus 18. Now, parts of the coastline of Nova Scotia may see some lows between minus 8 and minus 12. And in the north and west of New Brunswick, some communities could fall into the minus 20s. High temperatures in the forecast for tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick between minus 9 and minus 13. A little bit colder there at Edmundston, and then minus 9 for Miramichi. Fredericton tomorrow, the high of around minus 10. Same thing goes for St. John and Moncton. And for Prince Edward Island in the forecast, it's minus 11 at Summerside, minus 12 at Charlottetown for tomorrow, and then minus 11 at Montague and minus 10 at Surrey. Cape Breton tomorrow with high temperatures between minus 7 and minus 10. On the north shore and eastern shore of Nova Scotia, the highs between minus 6 and minus 9. Northern central areas of Nova Scotia for tomorrow with high temperatures between minus 6 and minus 10, minus 6 near the Atlantic coastline. The Annapolis Valley tomorrow with high temperatures of around minus 9, and for communities on the south shore of Nova Scotia and in the southwest, the high temperatures between minus 6 and minus 8. Guess we better talk a little bit more about the weekend. Not a lot has changed over the last 24 hours. There is still expected to be a nor'easter type weather system developed near the coastline of the Carolinas on Saturday, with that nor'easter then making its way northward, heading towards and past Cape Cod, at which point it becomes a risk for us here in the Maritimes to bring in some heavy snow, especially to the province of Nova Scotia, and some strong winds. And the period of time where we could be most impacted by the inclement weather continues to increasingly look like it'll be Sunday evening, night, and into early Monday morning. Now, there's still some uncertainty with this weather system. We still have time to see changes in the forecast, but you should start to be thinking about what preparations you need to do, especially in the province of Nova Scotia, if we're going to catch another big snow event. In the forecast for New Brunswick through the end of this week, it's flurries in the forecast for both Thursday and Friday. In the north of the province on Thursday, flurries a little bit more widespread on Friday. Saturday, mix of sun and cloud. Snow possible from that coastal storm for parts of New Brunswick still. The south and east of the province, basically late Sunday into Monday, and then a mix of sun and cloud for Tuesday and Wednesday. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, colder temperatures through the end of this week. Chance of flurries being a bit more widespread on Friday. There's a chance of flurries on Saturday, and then late Sunday into Monday. So we're going to be watching for some impacts when it comes from snow and wind. There'll be a chance of flurries on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, a mix of sun and cloud. And finally, for Prince Edward Island, the forecast, flurries in the forecast for Friday, high of around minus 6, a mix of sun and cloud on Saturday. Potential snowy and windy conditions Sunday night into Monday, followed by a chance of flurries on Tuesday, and Wednesday, a mix of sun and cloud. Bruce.
All right, thanks, sir. Wake-up weather still to come. In the meantime, we shall step aside, but we do hope to see you on the other side.
#1 morning show in Halifax. Turk, Megan, and Amateur Alex. And home to the biggest artists. Halifax's #1 hit music station. 101.3 Virgin Radio.
From happy hour to house parties, drinking was once a rite of passage. But these days, a lot of younger folks are taking a pass. In fact, data shows that Gen Z is consuming less alcohol than previous generations of the same age. CTV's Emma Convey looked into what may be driving that trend.
It's not just dry January for some students in Halifax. Many have chosen to opt out of drinking altogether.
I personally don't enjoy it anymore. I used to, but like after feeling like terrible at the end of a night, I just stopped consuming alcohol.
Drank a bit last year and then decided this year I was going to try to stop drinking, just see how it affected my play because I'm on the volleyball team, and found I feel a lot better and it's a lot better financially too.
A trend clinical psychologist Simon Sherry says he has noticed.
Alcohol plays a leading role in a range of mental disorders, especially anxiety and depression. Certainly there's nothing wrong with occasionally having a drink, but if you are a frequent drinker or someone who drinks a whole lot in a short period of time, it will be corrosive to your mental and your physical health.
Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, they are actually leading the category for low and no alcohol, especially low and no alcohol wines. And so we're seeing a lot of innovation in that category.
These experts say Gen Zs are health conscious, but not for all substances.
They're conscientious on one hand, but they're very selective and they don't look at the whole impact. So they say, oh, I use marijuana, for example, to reduce my anxiety. But what the studies actually show us is that prolonged marijuana use actually increases people's episodes of anxiety.
Emma Convey, CTV News.
Thank you, Emma. Time for one final break. Coming up, help for families dealing with dementia. First, though, it's your wake-up weather. Here's a live look at Lunenburg on this Wednesday night. -11 right now, home of the Blue Nose. We'll be right back with Kaylin after this. Thursday morning is now upon us. Let's kick it off with a look at the wake-up weather and Kaylin Mitchell. 29th day of January already.
Almost at the month of February. How about that?
How about?
Yeah, very cold morning around the Maritime region. First thing, most temperatures well down to the minus teens. And a lot of communities feeling into the minus 20s with the wind chill. The afternoon's not much better. It's another cold day for tomorrow. We've got a mix of sun and cloud. There'll be a chance of flurries in the southwest of Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, and some flurries expected in northern areas of New Brunswick. Bruce.
All right, thank you, Kaylin. Well, dementia, of course, is an incredibly difficult diagnosis for the patient and, in fact, the entire family. But as CTV's Laura Brown shows us tonight, the Alzheimer's Society of New Brunswick wants them to know they are not alone and they can help.
We have made it completely dementia-friendly.
Brianna Burns takes us on a tour of the Alzheimer's Society's office kitchen. The signage may be simple, but it makes a big difference to someone living with dementia.
We have both written words as well as a picture and a yellow and black background, which is psychologically proven to be the last color that people living with dementia lose.
It's a reality 12,000 people in this province and their families live with. Today marks the Society's National Day of Action, and Burns says the actions can be about forming new memories.
I think about my grandmother, who she absolutely loves, she used to love records when she was younger, and she's living with dementia now. And so I told my father, I said, you should totally bring in these records for her so she can start to enjoy something that she used to love.
So in our space here, you can see some pretty easy changes that you can make.
Like this blind that goes over the mirror. The story behind it stems from a daughter who was learning how to take care of her mother living with dementia.
Her mom had had a couple of bladder infections and had actually been hospitalized with a kidney infection. So what had happened is this woman had been walking into the bathroom, seeing a reflection she did not recognize, holding her bladder and leaving the bathroom, thinking there was someone else in the bathroom.
The Society held open houses across the province today to share some of these simple changes and connect with people touched by the disease.
There can be joy in a diagnosis of dementia. There can be little moments of humor. There can be moments of learning.
She promises they can help with every step, ensuring no one feels forgotten. Laura Brown, CTV News, Fredericton.
Thank you, Laura. Important message there. CTVNewsAtlantic.ca if you'd like a closer look at anything you've seen tonight. I'm Bruce Frisco. Thank you for staying up late with us this evening. Have a good night